Hola, if you've been searching for a show that gives you the daily pulse of the Latinx news you need, prepárate. I'm Andrea Martinez and I host a daily show called Pulso News on the new app Quibi. Every day, my team comes to you with the news of our community told from within the community. My team and I are thrilled to share an episode from this week with you. Take a look. Hola, I'm Andrea Martinez coming to you from Telemundo Center, bringing you the daily pulse. This is Pulso News. The Supreme Court rules over the Trump administration's attempt to end DACA, and it's a win for the Dreamers. A Telemundo exclusive with New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on the DACA decision and the future of immigration reform. Today, we commemorate Juneteenth, a holiday that takes a new meaning as Americans fight to end systemic racism. After almost 3 years of uncertainty, ever since President Trump announced he'd be rescinding the program that protects them from deportation, 800,000 young adults known as Dreamers finally caught a break. The Supreme Court of the United States ruled in their favor, citing that President Trump's administration failed to properly weigh the repercussions that ending the program would have on those who rely on it.
Enormous relief to truly just, shut down all of this confusion and worry, honestly.
The Trump administration still has authority to rescind DACA again.
President Trump responded to the decision, tweeting that he was asking for a legal solution to DACA, not a political one, and that his administration will have to start the process all over again.
It said that it wasn't unnecessarily unconstitutional for the Trump administration to end the program, but the way that they did it was wrong.
Immigration advocates urging Dreamers not to wait to file for renewals.
If you have DACA, you can renew it, and you should renew it. However, I recommend that if you believe you are eligible, please speak to an attorney or look for information from a trusted organization.
There's no doubt the Supreme Court's decision over DACA is a big win. But the story of how we got here is a telltale sign of the challenges Dreamers still face to achieve a permanent solution. The odyssey began 19 years ago when a bipartisan group of senators introduced the DREAM Act, a bill designed to provide only undocumented minors a pathway to legal status. And time again, that bill failed to pass. Then in 2008, Barack Obama was elected president.
He talked about doing immigration reform in the first 100 days. And it was 2009, and what we were seeing was actually the opposite. We were seeing people getting detained, deported.
So in January 2010, Gabby and 3 other Dreamers set out on a 1,500-mile expedition from Miami to Washington, D.C. to remind President Obama of the promises he'd made.
In essence, it was a cry for help, but also it was a cry to say to the president, enough is enough.
When they arrived to D.C., the 4 Dreamers demanded a deferred action for all Dreamers. And in 2012, their demands were met.
Effective immediately, the Department of Homeland Security is taking steps to lift the shadow of deportation from these young people.
DACA allowed Dreamers to come out of the shadows, to qualify for temporary reprieve upon meeting stringent criteria, and to pay hefty fees.
The executive order gets rescinded. You're going to have to.
But Donald Trump let it be known he wanted to end it. And since 2017, his first year in office, he's tried to do just that.
I think this decision means something. DACA lives to see another day, but at the same time, DACA was never, the end goal. It also means that we have a lot of work to do.
LatinX elected officials rejoiced when they learned of the Supreme Court's ruling. Some have been part of the immigration reform fight for a long time. And others, though relatively new, are responsible for reigniting movements towards social reform, like Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's been a vehement advocate for immigration reform. Our colleague Julio Vaqueiro spoke with her after the Supreme Court's ruling.
So what's your first thought regarding the Supreme Court's decision on DACA?
Well, I was just, first, complete shock and surprise. But secondly, I was just so relieved for so many of our families. My district is 50% immigrant, and so many of our families are also mixed status. And I was just so relieved at the possibilities that are now open for them and the security that they now feel today, so much more than they felt yesterday.
Yeah. President Trump said this was a gunshot on the faces of conservatives. What do you think about that?
Well, it doesn't surprise me because his political project his entire project is to politicize the courts, is so that justices don't rule based on what is fair or based on actual interpretation of the law, but they're just ruling based on the party that nominated them and ruling in the favor of just conservative judgments no matter what. And so I understand that he's disappointed because he's trying to politicize our courts. And that's not to say that they don't rule in his favor most of the time, but he had a significant loss today, and he had a significant loss last week with the ruling around employment protections for our LGBT community.
Don't miss the rest of our talk with AOC airing Monday, where we talk about racial justice as it pertains to COVID-19 and police reform. Today we honor Juneteenth. On this day in 1865, African-American slaves in Texas finally received word that they were free, 2.5 years after Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. Fast forward 155 years, and upholding Juneteenth has never been more important. In the wake of the Black Lives Matter movement, Americans are marching side by side to bring an end to systemic racial inequalities.
This is a chance for our government, our corporations, and our citizens to all stand in solidarity with their African-American brothers and sisters.
Texas made Juneteenth an official holiday over 30 years ago, and now Virginia's governor proposes to make it a paid state holiday, with numerous American companies heading in that same direction.
Some might say changing a state holiday is merely a symbolic action, but symbols do matter. If they didn't, people wouldn't be fighting so hard to keep Confederate flags and statues up. Symbols show what we value.
Indeed, they do. The use of a symbol causing Facebook to take down 88 ads posted by President Trump, his re-election campaign, and VP Mike Pence's account. The identical ads featured an upside-down red triangle, a symbol used by Nazis in World War II to identify political dissidents in concentration camps. President Trump's re-election campaign dismissing it as merely an emoji, but the social media giant says the use of the symbol violated their policy against organized hate. One more reason to commemorate this Juneteenth with an understanding of history, both domestic and foreign. Here's what we're keeping the pulse on. Rent moratoriums are expiring all over the country. Is there a renter's crisis on the horizon? Worshipping in the times of the pandemic, how to observe your faith and keep safe. And La Lengua Teatro keep the Spanish language and theater alive in the Bay Area. Nos vemos el lunes. That's a taste of Pulso News. Our newscast is brought to you through the voices of Nuestra Gente, and it's up every morning, Monday through Friday on Quibi. To watch more, click the link in the description below and download the Quibi app free to you for 14 days. If you're outside the US and can't find us just yet, keep an eye on the app porque Quibi is always expanding. Hasta mañana.